Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. We got a video here from Kyle Hill. When you don't drop and run. Cobalt 60 accidents. Don't forget to hit that like button down below, and while you're there, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's free to do it, and it's free to undo it later if you decide to change your mind. Anyways, let's get into it. Just had a little brain lag, brain fart there.
There is only one naturally occurring isotope of the element cobalt, Cobalt-59. It's not radioactive, but it can be made to be. If placed inside a nuclear reactor, the metal captures neutrons and is transmuted into something much more famous and much more radioactive, Cobalt-60. This isotope is physically robust, has a relatively long half-life, and emits high-energy gamma rays. Cobalt-60 is therefore perfect for many nuclear applications, from industrial density gauges to cancer therapy, when used safely. If precautions are ignored,
I'm guessing there's a way to use it very unsafely and make it deadly.
Forgotten, or actively bypassed, Cobalt-60 sources can be accidents waiting to happen.
Yep.
And in 3 back-to-back years, from 1989 to 1991, the potential for an accident was fulfilled. This is the true story of the El Salvador, Israel, and Belarus irradiator accidents.
Of course one of them's Israel, because why not?
The accident occurred here at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant.
Hey, to be fair, 3 Mile Island's nuclear disaster was not even that bad, and in fact, I believe a company just bought one of the reactors, or at least part of the facility, and is going to reopen it, which is awesome because nuclear power is great, safe, reliable, if done correctly. All you need is to have safety precautions in order and to uphold them, and nuclear power will never be a problem. It will always be safe.
How do you keep food safe without putting chemicals on it? How do you sterilize medical equipment without touching it? That's where commercial irradiators come in. They use intense sources of beta, X-ray, and gamma radiation to kill insects, bacteria, and other pathogens, without touching or altering any targets, and without making them radioactive. The basic design is a shielded room where products are moved around in an unshielded source. After a set amount of time and dose, sterilized products are removed, and the radiation source is moved back into a safe position, like under meters of water. Non-beam sources of radiation look like this: metal racks of radioactive material that can be raised and lowered.
If you're a Star Wars fan, you probably also saw this one. But to me, this image kinda looks like this. The Jedi library in the archives. Oh, come on. Open that up bigger. There we go. I mean, does it not? To be fair. Yeah.
Brilliant blue glow here is from Cherenkov radiation produced by so-called pencils of Cobalt-60 in water. A source rack might have dozens of these pencils capable of producing doses many thousands of times larger than what any human could withstand. Doses well above lethal for humans is what can make an irradiator an accident waiting to happen, but they are necessary. Generally speaking, the less cells an organism has, the more resistant it is to radiation. Humans are less resistant than goldfish, for example, which are less resistant than cockroaches, fruit flies, and bacteria. Proper sterilization, then, necessarily requires a very large dose, especially for medical devices and implanted equipment. In 1989, the irradiation facility in San Salvador, El Salvador, was using a JS6300 irradiator to sterilize intravenous solutions and blood dispersion sets. It did so with a source rack composed of 108 Cobalt 60
My knowledge? This one. It way above my head.
source pencils stored in water when not in use, raised into the air near a 2-level conveyor belt when irradiating products. The belt would use pistons and a pneumatic elevator to move reusable fiberglass boxes through 29 irradiation positions. In 1990, the irradiation facility in Sorek, Israel, was using a JS6-500 gamma sterilizer, basically the same one as in El Salvador, that moved medical products and spices around Cobalt-60 sources. The Cobalt irradiator in Belarus in 1991 was using a slightly different setup without a pool of water for storage, but the process was the same. Raise an intense gamma source into the air.
So is it like a bad irradiator that was causing the accidents here? Is that why? Is that what this is going to come out to?
Move syringes and hemostatic sponges past it. 3 facilities, 3 large Cobalt-60 sources. And in 1989, 1990, and 1991, 3 major accidents that weren't exactly out of the Cherenkov blue. In El Salvador, which was reeling from civil war at the time, there was no regulatory control of radioactive sources at all. There was no radiological protection infrastructure. In the Israeli facility, there were no warning signs posted. In Belarus, a nation newly sovereign after the collapse of the Soviet Union, was diverting resources away from radiation protection at a plant whose irradiator
Of course they were.
Up to 3 times per day. Accidents waiting to...
That's not an area of your country you want to have bare minimum funding on, is radiation and nuclear related. Anything relating to nuclear, you want to have proper funding. And if they ask you for more money, ask them what for. And if it's for anything, relating to the functionality of the plant, and by functionality, I also do mean if it relates to, paying for maybe a little upgraded break room for the employees, do it. It's worth it for them. They're keeping things powered and running in the nation. They deserve it.
Happen at plants with sources 200 times more radioactive.
They earned it,
Cobalt
I should
that would
say.
make
No
you
one deserves
drop
things.
and
They
run.
earned it, though.
As anyone who works around potentially dangerous industrial equipment will tell you, once you stop respecting the machine, nuclear or not, that's when it gets you. And in El Salvador, Israel, and Belarus, that respect was either forgotten, never taught, or both. The San Salvador facility already had an accident.
It was never taught in Belarus. We can be certain of that. The Soviet Union, we know that they love to teach and make sure you're aware and smart about your whole everything around you in the world and everything. Oh, no, wait, no, they don't. They barely give you food.
Before 1989, where a radiation monitor failed, so they removed the monitor. This should have disabled...
What? An irradiation monitor is failing. Get rid of the monitor. What's the worst that could happen?
the facility, but workers found an exploit where they could cycle buttons on the control panel and open the door with a knife to make the radiation work again. Product boxes were held together with
Why?
tape. The instructor
If you have problems at your facility and you're one of these guys, put in requests for maintenance, get repairs, get things done properly. Come on. There's got to be something of the equivalent in those countries that'll some oversight body to come in and make sure it's done properly so it doesn't kill a bunch of people.
manual for the facility was given to them in English, not Spanish, and was incorrectly translated.
Oh, well, that
8 years
definitely
prior, in
doesn't help.
1981, the supplier of the Cobalt irradiator recommended that a shroud be installed to prevent conveyor belt jams. But it was never installed.
Of course.
According to the IAEA report, quote, the installed safety systems, which would normally have prevented human error from leading to an accident, had degenerated or been bypassed over the years. Safety culture in Israel had similarly degraded. The facility had also received a notice to install a shroud around its JS6 irradiator to prevent jams, but never did so. It also had an instruction manual that wasn't in its native language, which, according to the IAEA, contributed to the operator's inability to cope with unusual events. The irradiator in Belarus was jamming up to 3 times per day, which even experienced operators were circumventing safety protocols to fix. Within 32 months, nearly identical conditions and cultures in each facility would lead to 3 almost identical fatalities: death by severe cases of acute radiation syndrome. A late 80s weekend in San Salvador. A worker only known as Worker A had already dealt with the usual power failure.
I was looking over to the left there, looking up what was going on in Israel at the same time as this disaster in 91 or in 1990. Basically nothing any different than they still have going on today, outside of they didn't have an Iron Dome. So yeah, they were still in conflict with half their neighbors, and their neighbors were in conflict with them. It was mutual conflicts. Don't worry. They got attacked. They went back and re-attacked. They got attacked. Someone attacked them. They attacked a couple others in retaliation. Got attacked again. That whole area is just eliminate itself, please. Can that area of the world eliminate itself? And then the problem will just go away. We'll have it eliminate itself, and then we'll have someone come in afterward and get the spoils of war. Because, well, they'll both sides, I hope, eliminate themselves.
Failures and piston problems at the facility. At 2 a.m., something more serious happened. Returning from his coffee break, Worker A heard an alarm. The Cobalt rack was stuck. He tried the regular trick for getting it back safely in the pool of water below. No luck. He went to the roof to manually pull cables.
No
Success.
boy.
The alarm stopped.
Okay.
But the indicator light for source up was still on. Back to the roof again to force it to stop. Alarms and lights turned off. Worker A turned the power to the irradiator off and grabbed a flashlight to find the reason the rack got stuck. Had the radiation monitor been functional, it would have told him that the source rack was still very much in the up position. But the monitor had been disabled 5 years before.
So he went in and got super irradiated.
He didn't carry a personal monitor. In the darkened irradiation room, Worker A found 5 boxes jammed into the space of 4. He was able to remove some of the offending packaging, but not all, so he went to get help. Had he looked past the boxes, he would have seen over 100 Cobalt-60 sources right next to him.
Oh boy.
At 3 a.m., Worker A was joined by Workers B and C. They asked if
Dumbass grabbed 2 other guys and probably got them all killed or really sick with radiation. He gave all 3 of them fucking super cancer.
anything was wrong.
Damn.
Worker A said the power was off. Nothing to worry about. All 3 men set
wasn't.
about manually hoisting the cables that held the source rack. Without realizing that unsticking the rack meant that it was indeed unshielded, the 3 men paid out slack until the Cobalt assembly touched the water in the pool below. That's when Worker A saw a brilliant blue glow. They fully lowered the rack and left the chamber as quickly as possible.
Yep.
According to the IAEA report, Worker B saw a radiation monitor upon leaving the room and asked what it was for. Worker A told him it was for measuring radiation, but since they weren't dealing with any, it was unnecessary. 30 minutes later,
you idiots.
Worker A began vomiting blood.
Yep.
This diagram is of the workers' positions relative to the source rack in San Salvador. The lines indicate different dose rates in grays per minute. 1 gray of whole body dose can cause radiation sickness. You'll notice the men's stances while they tried to free the rack, 1 leg forward for support. The leading leg of each man was subsequently amputated first.
Oh yeah, 100%. They gave themselves super cancer and probably didn't last for more than a few years. I bet you the longest any of them lived was at a very generous probably 5 years.
A still installed radiation monitor caused the gamma radiation alarm to sound. 30 minutes later, a qualified operator returned to find 2 warning lights, one that said radiation in the room was too high, and another that said the source rack was in the down and shielded position. The operator was faced with 2 conflicting signals, one indicating that the source was safe and one that it was not.
He chose
to believe that the source down signal was correct and that the radiation alarm was false.
Oh no!
First, he silenced...
I don't know why that's not a policy in every nuclear place, that it should be the other way, but it should be the other way. You should always assume shit, there's radiation, rather than, nah, there's none. We're good. Like, even in the 90s, this is after Chernobyl. They knew radiation
The
bad.
gamma alarm by disconnecting it. Then, like the workarounds in El Salvador, he used a trick to open the irradiation room where he cycled the power on and off several times until the room registered only background rates of radiation. The operator then opened the door with a key outfitted with a radiation monitor.
And then he murdered himself.
To the right range. Inside the room, cartons blocked him from seeing the source rack. He started removing jam boxes from the conveyor mechanism, but after only about a minute, he, quote, began to feel a burning sensation in his eyes and a pounding sensation in his head. At 5:45 p.m.,
that's radiation poisoning. Yeah. And I bet you none of them live very long.
26, 1991. An assistant in Belarus noticed that there was a jam in the transport mechanism of his irradiator. He called for the experienced operator on site, who then went to see for himself what the matter was. After just 60 seconds of trying to free the blockage, he had a headache. His joints hurt, as did his genitals.
Did they have problems with their radiator too?
But his personal radiation detector was left in his
malfunctioning. Oh. Why isn't your lunchbox? Your lunchbox should have your lunch in it, not your work equipment. What are you doing? What, are you too afraid to carry a tool bag with your work stuff and a lunchbox with your lunch? Come on. You work at a nuclear facility, for crying out loud.
Though it's spoken about as a singular condition, acute radiation syndrome is actually 3 syndromes, each related to the dose received and its predominant effects in humans. The first is hematopoietic, or bone marrow syndrome. In all the dose ranges where acute effects occur, radiation damages and destroys the radiosensitive, rapidly dividing cells in the bone marrow. Since this is where you're
at the earliest stage that they're highlighting, the individual may die between 10 and 30 days without medical intervention. The next 2, death occurs usually within 3 to 5 days without medical intervention. Symptoms are irreversible. Death usually occurs within 48 hours. Like, damn, you do not want to get to that bottom one. Central nervous system syndrome. Wow. You don't want that one. You don't want any of them, but you really don't want that one.
Blood cells come from. Hematopoietic syndrome is a potentially catastrophic decrease in red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, anemia, increased risk of infection, and excessive bleeding. The second syndrome, occurring after doses that already can be deadly, is gastrointestinal. Radiation has killed and/or disrupted cells in the gut, leading to nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. As we highlighted in a previous story, vomiting within an hour after exposure usually means multi-organ failure and death.
Most radioactive man in history.
Few people
Maybe I'll have to react to this one if people enjoy this one.
in history have ever fallen into the category of the third syndrome, neurovascular. This only occurs in cases where whole body doses doom the victim. Direct damage to blood vessels and the central nervous system, confusion, seizures, brain bleeding, coma, followed within hours or days by death. Robert Peabody was one of those men, as was Cecil Kelly. The 3 men in the back-to-back irradiator accidents endured estimated whole-body doses of between 5 and 20 grays, and were treated for gastrointestinal and hematopoietic syndromes. The treatments were heroic, but ultimately unsuccessful. The 3 men who stood within arm's length of a Cobalt-60 irradiator in San Salvador had vastly different outcomes that varied according to small changes in distance and
Yeah, there's a bit of bad irradiation imagery. I'm just going to scan over it like this so you can kind of see if in a very small if you want to skip ahead.
time. Worker
Probably
C
skip
was
ahead a
in and out
couple
of
minutes.
hospitals
I'll
and
just
put on
let
medical
this
leave
play for
199
the next
days.
minute.
He eventually returned to work with a limp. Worker B was transferred to a larger hospital in Mexico City. His left leg was amputated on day 161 after exposure. His right leg was amputated on day 202. Worker A, the most irradiated, had extensive radiation burns on his legs, feet, and hands, and continued vomiting and diarrhea.
Made it for
had kept his
26
body weight
days?
by 20%.
Oh,
On day 132 after the incident, his right leg was amputated.
he made it half
San
a
Salvador
year?
On day 191, he contracted pneumonia.
I don't think I would have
but
wanted
his
to make
lungs
it that
were too
long
damaged to insert a catheter.
at that point.
At some
Ooh.
time during this period, his lung was pierced when a catheter was placed in his neck, and he died at 7 a.m. on day 197, 6.5 months
Not even a
after
year
exposure.
later.
An IAEA expert who directed the treatments of patients after Chernobyl 3 years before was supposed to supervise his treatment, but worker A died the day before he arrived.
Aww.
The operator in Israel in 1990 knew something was terribly wrong. He called his radiation safety officer. The officer arrived, turned on his own monitor, and walked into the irradiation room. Just steps inside the door, he found radiation rates 5 million times higher than background. He turned around and locked the door.
Yep,
The
as
operator
one
died
would.
36 days later, after intensive medical care. The IAEA's reconstruction of the accident in Belarus suggested that the operator had only spent about 90 seconds in the irradiation room. But after 113 days and dozens of drugs and treatments, intensive reanimating measures were necessary, but
hopeless, yeah.
hopeless.
Nothing at that point was gonna save ya.
Signs not posted. Upgrades not installed. Safety regulations forgotten, ignored, or actively bypassed. The common refrain in every single one of these accidents is human error, rather
Yep.
than inherent danger.
That's the thing. When it comes to nuclear power, you have to worldwide use caution. Use caution and have a backup. Have a backup for your backup. And then have a backup for your backup's backup. And then make sure nobody is working alone. Make sure everybody has a buddy and every person has someone watching their back, especially if you have someone going into an area that handles with radiation. Have them in a radiation protection suit. Have them, have someone behind them with, all the sensors and keeping watch on everything to make sure that, the meters on their suit don't all of a sudden read way too high for the suit to stop and for you to be, hey, you gotta leave now. Exit that room immediately. And then they'll, turn around, put anything they can down gently and run. Or if they can carry whatever tools with them, they'll take them with them. But at that point, I would just, these are on the floor now, I'm out. Can't be in here no more.
Even in the case of Chernobyl and a clearly
Yeah.
problematic RBMK reactor design, what led to the
Quit
disaster
shaking the
was
screen.
an ill-advised test in the middle of the night, circumvented safeguards, and government yes-men.
Yeah, circumvented safeguards, different maintenance plannings, and yeah, just a whole bunch of human error followed by people expecting things to be done and not double checking to make sure. It's a nuclear facility. You gotta do the safety
The plant itself
measures.
was surprisingly resilient. Despite the catastrophe that followed, it's almost never mentioned that Chernobyl continued to produce power in some capacity for 14 years.
Yeah,
Nuclear technology and the regulations
they
that
spent
govern it
14
are
years
robust.
shutting the other
Better
reactors
for world-changing
down.
technologies regulations to be tedious than to be non-existent. Irradiators sound dangerous, but in reality they are no more dangerous than any other piece of industrial equipment that's not made to play nice with living things. While these stories are sensational, I need to remind you that they are exceptional, not typical. Between the Trinity explosion in the year 2000, there were 417 radiation accidents that led to significant overexposure of at least one person. Of these 3,000 overexposed persons, there were 127 fatalities. Spread across 57 years, this is a fatality rate of about 2 per year. As
Which
a
isn't that
comparison,
bad at all.
This is the number of fatal work injuries in just the United States in just 1 year.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of fatal industries for Let's see, what's my construction's expected, manufacturing's expected. Retail trade is not expected to be up there, and hospitality isn't expected to be up there either. Education. Health services is probably carrying that one a bit. Wholesale trade, I can see that way if you're having massive amounts of shipping some trucks and stuff. Someone gets crushed, smushed, pinned between things. Yeah, I can see how that one would cause injuries.
2023. Notice that the data starts at around 200 per year.
Yeah.
With such a low rate, nuclear is in fact by far the safest industry in the United States, and one of the safest industries.
There's a reason for that. It's due to specific safety testings in everything there to make sure you don't have any really bad accidents.
Industries in the entire world. More than 40% of all single-use medical devices produced worldwide each year are sterilized with a gamma irradiator, as is about 1 million metric tons of food. Since 1991, there have been 2 additional fatal irradiator accidents, one in 2004 and one in 2008.
China. Wow. It's almost like the place where human life is valued less and safety precautions are ignored more often is a place where things would happen more. Wow. Imagine that shit.
In China. Both occurred as a result of ignoring and or bypassing safety protocols. As in El Salvador, Israel, and Belarus, 3 men died. Until next time.
Fantastic video. Kyle Hill, you do a great job, and thank you for watching. I can see you back here later today, and we'll be doing California backstabs fire victims. Because I've got a few stories with that, or at least one other story with that one to share as well. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day today. I will see you back here later if you happen to show back up. And have a wonderful day.